Purpose After Sports is proudly sponsored by The Factory, Bloomington's go-to spot for athletes, former athletes, and anyone staying active. From personalized training programs to their CrossFit-style group fitness classes, they are here to support you and help you keep moving and feeling your best. So make sure to visit thefactorybn.com to learn more. Big thanks to The Factory for partnering with Purpose After Sports. Welcome to Purpose After Sports, where we interview athletes to share their post-sport journeys and explore how they are reinventing what it means to compete. Today, we are joined by Jackie Carmichael. He was a former standout athlete at Illinois State University and a seasoned pro basketball player. At Illinois State, he was first-team All-Missouri Valley Conference in 2013, second-team All-MVC, and two-time MVC All-Defensive Team. He played for the Iowa Energy for the NBA G League and played professionally in Spain, Israel, Turkey, Russia, France, South Korea, and Bosnia, and was the Bosnian Cup champion in 2021. Jackie's career has taken him all over the world, and today we are diving into what his journey looks like and now what it looks like after basketball. So happy to get you in here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I'm glad I could be here.
Of course. I had to almost check with you to make sure I didn't miss any places overseas. I was reading the list. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you reading off the list is like, people always ask me, how many countries did you play in? Where'd you play? And I always forget one or two. So it's like to hear the list. Yeah, that's crazy.
No, you've had a very seasoned career and obviously amazing accomplishments in those areas. So we want to start with what it was like even getting into basketball, because you came from a family, your mom played, and she played at the college level, correct, as well? Yep. So was she an influence in starting your basketball career, or was it kind of whatever Jackie wants to do? How did that start?
It was one of those things where, like, yeah, my mom played in college. But I was never, like, forced to, like, play sports. Like, my dad was 1 of 10, had 3 7-foot uncles. So, like, the chances that I was going to be tall, and like, you know, it was going to work out, but none of my family was ever like the 7-foot uncles were all in the military. Like, you know, like would play for fun. My mom was really the athlete of the family. My dad brought the height.
Gotcha.
You know, most times people think, oh, your dad must have played or whatever. So yeah, it was just one of those things where I just kind of grew to love the game. And I like grew up playing soccer and doing track. And those were my first two like real things. Like I did AAU track when I was like 6 or 7, and ran and did the Junior Olympics, did the whole thing. Yeah. And so then once I started getting a little bit taller, I was like, oh, you know, basketball maybe could work out. Yeah. And my mom got me a subscription, like my first Slam magazine when I was, I think, 11 or 12. Vince Carter was on the cover, and then actually Sean Livingston. Like that magazine, famous magazine cover with him, Dwight Howard, Al Jefferson. All those guys were on the front, and I was like, I think I want to do basketball. Like, I think I want to see if I could do this. So, yeah, and then that's kind of where it all started.
So talk to me about getting into high school. You know, are you starting to be the tallest athlete in high school, or are you still kind of growing into it? And how did that, we're getting better, seeing that we're getting better?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because in middle school, I was like, I dunked in the 8th grade, and everyone was telling me like, oh, you just, you know, just because you're tall, that's the only reason you're on the team. You suck pretty much is what they were telling me. Right. But at my 8th grade year, I got good enough to where I was being recruited by 2 different high schools. In Kansas, you can't do that. But my mom taught in one school district, and the other school district was like the school district I lived in. Oh, okay. And so my mom was like, can he take the bus to go to the school district she worked in? They're like, no. So she was like, okay, that was pretty easy. I guess you're going to the other school. And there's variable differences with each of the schools. Like, they just were polar opposites of each other. Okay. And so it worked out. I went to Manhattan High School, and that really changed my life. At the end of the day, I started playing soccer and was like, I'm not going to do this. And just was a one-sport athlete all through high school then at that point.
So what is it like when you're starting to get even more looks in high school at that age? Are you locking in, it's late nights in the gym, or are you still just like, I'm pretty good at this?
You know what? It's funny you say that. I was just talking to someone about this where I was not super focused on basketball. Like
Okay.
I was like wanted to go and like draw and be creative and like do all the things. I just so happened to be good at basketball and like athletic enough.
Yeah.
So like I would do the camps in the summer, all the things, but I was not like, I had a friend that he'd run back and forth from the gym. He'd go shoot. And I always say like, if he was 6'5", 6'6", that guy would have been in the NBA.
Yeah.
But he was just short. And so finally it was like one of those things. My junior year, I had a mentor come into my life and he was like, hey, Jackie, you can actually go to college. You can actually do something with basketball, but these are the things that you have to do. He's from the DC area.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. And I started listening to him.
Wow.
And just slowly but surely, I started being like, oh, no, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do that. I'm adding this to my game. And then, funny enough, we were having open gym one night and I was working at the grocery store.
Okay.
And I was like, Mom, hey, they said some college coach is coming to school to watch me play.
Yeah.
I was like, but I have work. So do I go to work or do I stay here? She's like, you need to go to work. You need to be there. and she's like, my mom was not playing around.
Yeah,
my mom works on military base. My father's in the military. She's like, you're going to work.
Yeah.
So I'm pushing carts through the parking lot. All of a sudden, I see my mom's car pull up. And I walk back in and I'm like, what's going on? She's like, you need to go to school right now. I got your basketball clothes. You need to go. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
She's like, Virginia is at the gym right now. She's like, they drove 2 hours from Kansas City.
Yeah.
You need to get there now. So I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So we go back.
Throws the car.
So I tell my boss, hey, I got to go drive back up to the gym. And sure enough, Virginia was up there. They watched me play. And then that was really the thing where all the letters start showing up at school.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, you need these grades to go to college. And like, nobody thought I was a Division I athlete. That's the funniest part about the entire thing. Like they, at my junior year, were like, oh, maybe you are good enough to actually go and do this. So that was kind of like my wake up call, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story. We love Mom. She was like, no, word comes first. And she saw so came. I love that.
Yep.
Okay. So junior going into senior year of high school, how are you deciding what university to pick and who is helping you make these decisions? I mean, you're still young at this age.
Right. So my mom and dad divorced when I was 10, when I was in 5th grade. So my mom was essentially my mom and my dad. And she was essentially she had went to college, but the landscape had changed so much from when she went to now. You know, I'm doing these things and she's trying to give me the best guidance she can. So the start of my senior year, Arizona, Northern Arizona came and was like, hey, we want you to go on an official visit.
Okay.
I have no idea what an official visit looks like. I have no idea where Flagstaff, Arizona is. I have no idea about anything.
Yeah.
And so my mom's like, okay, you can go there. There was a girl that ran track at Northern Arizona that went to my high school. So just funny enough, they were using her to be like, hey, tell them it's a great school, tell them all the things, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, the trip went how it went. It was not a great trip.
Okay.
They essentially like had me hang out with the players. It was just like, okay, this is not what I didn't even think college was like this, but it was just a lot of stuff where I was just kind of like, you know, if you've seen any of like, official visits, like in movies, like those horrific ones, like that's how mine was pretty much.
No way.
So get to the airport, get ready to head back to Kansas. Yeah. And the coach had his letter of intent in the back pocket and threw it down on the thing and was like, hey, I want you to sign your letter of intent. And I was like, I haven't talked to my mom, I haven't talked to anybody. Yeah. He's like, no, I want you to sign it. We bought you food. We did all this stuff for you. And you're going to tell me you get back on a plane without signing your letter of intent to come play in Northern Arizona?
Wow.
First official visit ever.
And what are you, like 17?
I'm 17 at this time. And so I'm like, I'm like literally jaws on the floor and I start crying. I'm like, hey, I don't know what you want me to do, but I feel like you're trying to pressure me to do something I don't want to do. So I get back on the plane, land. My mom immediately knew that something was wrong, called it to the university and was like, I can't believe that you guys would treat my son like this. They lied and pretty much said, hey, we never said that. We never did X, Y, and Z. Assistant coach calls later and says, hey, the coach did do that. He was very aggressive with Jackie. Yeah. And so I never went on another official visit until Illinois State.
I can imagine. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
And that was, you get 5. I went on 2, and I waited almost 2 years before I went on my second one.
Wow.
Because I ended up going to prep school afterwards.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, it had to happen for your journey, but like, at that age and you're by yourself and like I'm so glad that whatever in you told you like you don't have to do it like because I mean you're getting shown all the flashy stuff and all that and then you get that piece of paper and you're like what if I don't get another one? So many things are going in your head and you're just like so whatever told you not to do it and I'm glad mom stepped in again. I feel like she's going to be an ongoing thing. She like is. Mom stepped in. We love that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So then we're deciding what made you go prep school route then?
So senior year, so pretty much I'm working at the grocery store and playing the season. So I've dropped 30, go push carts, go to Dillon's or the Kroger. And then, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. We were still trying to get all the grades in order for me to essentially qualify to go because you had to have so many credits of each thing. They never thought of me as, this is different. Athlete needs different credits than that normal student that's going to go to a university. Okay. So they had to change everything. So by the time school ended, we were number 1 team in state, losing the first round of the state tournament. Wow. Still don't know where I'm going to college. A lot of people are saying go JUCO, but I was like, I don't want to start my clock yet. So I was trying to be smart about the situation. Yeah. And my head coach at the time was like, hey, I think you should go to Oral Roberts. And I was like, why do you think I should go to Oral Roberts? I was like, I don't think that that's going to be the best fit. They were offering him a job at Oral Roberts, that if I committed to go to Oral Roberts, then they would give him like an assistant coaching position or whatever. And he never ever told me this. So my mentor, who is from DC, was like, hey, I think you should go to the East Coast, go to prep school for a year. Yeah. You'll get another year under your belt. Yeah. You'll essentially be able to like see what that is like, and then you can go play college. Yeah. And I was like, that actually sounds like a really good idea, but where do I go? Where do I start? Whatever. And it was really like a God thing, because probably like 2 or 3 weeks later, started playing AAU again, and then get a call from South Kent, which is in Connecticut. It's an all-boys school. Yeah. And coming from a public high school, you're like, wait. So no girls. No, like you're 17, 18
I'm
year old boy. You're like, yeah, I'm an athlete. The only reason I was really playing basketball was to get the girls' attention.
Come on.
Yeah. Like, what's going on here? Why would I do that? So anyways, made the decision to say, hey, I'm going to go to prep school and end up going to South Kent. And that probably is like the inflection point in my life that probably everything changed. And everything kind of opened up. But that was, the decision behind it was something different. Nobody from my area has done it. And it's going to give me another opportunity to like essentially grow, get ready, and like mature before I go to college.
Absolutely. Now, are you finding these things out later in your life, or did you like at 18 slowly start to figure out that your coach was trying to get you to sign because he was going, what is the timeline? Are you figuring that out?
So everything is kind of happening really fast. So there was like, I had started playing AAU, and my mom was like, Jackie, I'm not letting you play AAU. I'm not letting you travel to go play basketball. What is this? I don't understand it. Yeah. So what's now is MoCan, which they have a really good program in Kansas City. They've had a bunch of NBA players come through their program now. This guy, Matt Souther, shows up at my front doorstep and was like, hey, I really think that this would be great for Jackie. He can go get free education, and I want him to do it. So as I'm doing it, these college coaches are calling. And so it's hard to decipher on if somebody would ever have any ulterior motive to have me go to their school. Right. So that's like, as I'm starting to like learn all this stuff, I'm starting to kind of see things that are kind of like, just starting to like play out. Yeah. And my mentor, it's my assistant coach, everyone was telling me that he's trying to ride your coattails. He's trying to, he wants X, Y, and Z from you. And I knew that wasn't the case. So I had everyone telling me this, and he was telling me something else. I'm like, he's not trying to harm me. Yeah. And so the head coach, he was more of like trying to push me. And I could feel the kind of like push. Yeah. But at 17, 18, you're kind of like, that's my, head coach, surely there couldn't be anything there. Surely he couldn't be trying to do this, but it came out one day. He was like, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how you're playing, and, and the Oral Roberts coaches are there. So just like everything just kind of was pointing in the direction of like, there's there's something going on. You
Wow.
know? Yeah. And so it came out. I think it came out a couple years later, actually.
Wow.
That was the case.
Whatever signs you were hit with some stuff, but some things were telling you not to do it. And by, just of lack of experience, being that young, a lot of people might have, because it's like you said, it's hard to decipher through that stuff. And you're getting told all these big fancy things and free college and all that. And it's like, I got to do it. But then you just never know but what's behind each door sometimes. Like,
right. No, 100%. And that's the biggest thing where I was just like, it just never seemed right. Like, it didn't seem right until it seemed right.
Yeah.
So I was really just trying to go with my gut because I didn't have anyone else to really lean on outside of my mentor.
Yeah.
That was trying to, give me, but he was trying to let me figure it out on my own as well and like be my own man at the end of the day. So.
Wow. We love the mentor as well.
Yeah. Yes. I'm forever grateful. I owe him a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So you are at prep school now. Tell me how we're making a decision. Prep school's ending. We want to go to a university, or is JUCO still maybe on the table?
So JUCO wasn't on the table. Like I just knew I didn't want to do that. I was like, you
got to talk to me. Why? Let's digress.
So I think at the time in my head, the way I was framing JUCO was like I was like I guess taking a step back and it was only because like being in Kansas, that's like JUCO Central.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
We have like some of the biggest JUCOs in the country.
Yeah.
But it just, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was like from a culture standpoint or from whatever, like I just didn't want to go through it. And I can't really give you a really good reason why. It was just kind of like, hey, I don't think I want to go this route. It seems like I'm maybe taking a step back.
Yeah.
And whether that was right, wrong, and different, that was like the decision I kind of like had framed it in my head.
Yeah.
So while I was at prep school, I'm kind of thinking like, as I'm going to prep school, Minnesota and Missouri both told me, hey, if you go to prep school, we have a scholarship for you that next year.
Okay.
So they would come up and watch me, whatever, and they were like going between like 2 or 3 guys. Oh, and I need to rewind. So Missouri actually offered me a scholarship right before I went to prep school.
Okay.
And my mom was like, what do you feel about it? Like, do you want to go? Like, this is Big 12. And I was like, they're offering me this at the end of the year because they didn't get the guy that they wanted. So I said, I'm going to be loyal to my word and I'm going to go to prep school and I'm not going to go to Missouri.
Yeah.
And be, 11th man on the bench. So end up going to prep school. And then through that time, like there was teams that were interested. I didn't really want to stay on the East Coast. Like St. John's was trying to recruit me a little bit. And so I was kind of like, we'll see. Spring break happens. I go back to Manhattan.
Okay.
And Illinois State is playing K-State in the NIT. And I just so happened to get invited by my mentor to say, hey, let's go to the game. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
And end up watching the game. I'm watching some of what's going to be my future teammates on the team. Just crazy. And one of the coaches that I played against in high school, his son was on the staff at Illinois State, Kerry Darding.
What a small world.
Small world. And so he coached against me for 4 years. And he's like, calls Tim Jankovic and is like, hey, do you want a 6'9" guy? He's under, and he's like, explain himself. He's like, who is it? He's like, well, Jackie. Well, he recruited me when I was at Kansas. And we had just like lost touch after he had left and went to Illinois State.
Gotcha.
Dots start connecting. He calls me. During spring break, I go on my official visit here in Bloomington. Coach calls me afterwards. He's like, hey, if you don't take it, we're going to offer it to somebody else. And it was kind of getting crunch time of like, I didn't really have any offers coming in.
Yeah.
And signed a letter of intent, go back to South Kent. And he's like, hey, Georgetown is here and they want to offer you a scholarship. And I'm like, I signed to Illinois State. What do you mean, George? Like, that's big man you.
Yeah.
And so, but I knew in my heart that Illinois State was the right decision. Like I knew 100%. I'm like, I am supposed to be here for whatever reason. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened. My prep school coach was like, wait, what? He was shocked.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really have any communication. I think they were telling him, oh, hey, he's going to be playing the Big East or something like that. Don't even waste your time recruiting him.
Yeah.
And then, that's kind of how it all kind of played out up until like the end of the year at prep school.
They snagged you.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like that's kind of another thing that a lot of people don't talk about with signing and all that is that little bit of like, well, I signed, what if there's something better, And It's awesome that you stuck with your gut. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but I'm really glad that it did, and you had an amazing career there, because it is. You signed that piece of paper, and it's the same thing in life. Like, maybe the grass is greener somewhere else, but you just gotta stick through it. And so we've made it to Illinois State.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the highs and the lows and being in this area, because it's different.
It is different. It is different. And I'm from the Midwest, so like Bloomington's very much like my town that I grew up in, like my hometown, like Manhattan. It's a college town. Only thing that's there is really the college, and then the businesses surrounding it. So, and the community is very tight. Everyone knows each other. So from that point, I had a comfortability with it. I don't think I was prepared for how cold it was going to probably be here. Because in Kansas, it's cold. Illinois, it's like you have that wind chill.
Yes.
And it's completely different. So, when I got here, it was really just those normal growing pains of being a freshman. You are literally going back to start at zero. And it's kind of like, you kind of have a choice to make of like, who do I want to be? And now you're on your own. And you kind of get set out, like you get to make the decisions on how not only your career is going to go, but then like your school life and who you are as a student athlete.
Yeah.
I got to go to class, and figuring out how to manage all these things, which I feel like prep school prepared me for.
Good.
So freshman year was good. I was learning my way. I had a lot of rope and like leeway with coach, and that's why I came here, because I knew he was going to let me play as a freshman and gain the experience. Sophomore year was absolutely terrible. And I was like very close to just like falling out of love with the game of basketball, because I felt like you kind of go through that lull of everyone's stronger than me, faster than me. I'm not doing what the coach, and we're losing games. So, it just starts to become just a lot piled on top of you. And then finally my junior year, the end of my sophomore year, I end up, coach is like, hey, I want you to go to Chicago. I want you to train with some of these pros that are, getting ready for the NBA draft, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good for you. I went and did it, and I was like, if this is what it takes to be a pro, I got to fix a lot of things in my life, because it was like 2-a-days.
Yeah.
It was these, drills I had never done before, shooting drills I had never done before. I'm like, I got to fix some things. So that summer started working. And then my junior year was really kind of when things started to really get just like, my life started to get really crazy. Like I said, like pretty much like overnight. And we went on that run, end up losing in the Missouri Valley Championship game to Creighton in overtime. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because we were actually winning the game with 2 seconds left. And then played the NIT, lose to Stanford in double overtime.
Good gosh.
And at that point, like I had some really crazy games.
Yeah.
And Tim was like, hey, I want you to go to this Nike camp. And I was like, Nike camp? I don't even know. Like, I've never even heard of. I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm thinking this is something that, you get signed up for and you go.
Yeah.
So it's a Mark Stoudemire camp. And this is the top 60 bigs in the country go to this camp. The top 10 from that camp go to LeBron camp.
Okay.
And just that year, they're getting ready to prepare for the Olympics in Vegas. So they moved it from Akron to Vegas. So now I'm like, oh, this is the camp that LeBron holds every year in Akron. I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to get invited to this camp. I'm virtually unknown at this point. I've had some big games in college. Go to Mark Stoudemire camp, end up like probably being like top 3 or 4 like big in the camp. Go to LeBron camp, end up probably being like top or 3.
Yeah.
And the next day I'm flying, land in Bloomington, get a tweet at that time. This was still Twitter.
Yeah.
Still get a tweet from Fran Fraschilla. Jackie had this amazing camp, blah, blah, blah. Projected to go mid-second round in the NBA draft. And I'm looking like, there's no way. I'm literally looking at it, I'm like there's no way that I am even in consideration. In my brain, I'm like, I'm still think that I have a long ways to go.
Yeah.
So at this point, you have people validating you that, okay, maybe you can be a professional athlete. I'm like, so wait, I'm going to be able to make money playing the game of basketball and potentially playing the NBA.
Right.
And then from that point, it was just full blast. I mean, it was wild. And then coach ends up leaving, and Dan ends up coming. We have we underachieved my senior year, and then after that, start preparing for the NBA draft. So it was a lot. There was a lot of ups and downs, but it got very crazy at the end.
I don't know if you enjoyed it, but I enjoy listening to your story and you having these aha moments.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like some people, they have that goal, they just know that this is what they want, the plan A.
Yeah.
And it feels like sometimes in your life, you're like, well, it's happening.
Yeah.
And then, like, you work for it, obviously. I know that we're kind of skating over, but I know that you didn't just get into that camp, right? Like, you grinded, and your accolades proved that you deserve to be there. But I just love that it was just like, well, if I'm getting this opportunity, I'm going to do my best at it. You know what I mean? And what comes of it comes of it. So that's amazing. Can we rewind to your sophomore year a little bit? When you're going through that low of, I could potentially walk away from this. What did you do? Did you internalize it? I know that your coach gave you an opportunity, but did you even talk to him about it, or he kind of saw that in you?
So, and I've actually never shared this story. So I ended up having a conversation with my mom, and I was just kind of like, I'm sitting on the end of the bench. I was like, I'm doing everything he's asking me to do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of players experience this, and so everyone handles it differently.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like I'm not gaining any ground. And I said, I feel like he's just like picking on me. Now, my mom always would say, like, if they're yelling at you, or if that means they care.
Right.
Like, Jackie, don't confuse it with that he doesn't like you. Honestly, because actually Tim is from my hometown. So he's from Manhattan. Okay. So we went to the same high school. And so that's where, very small world, but that's kind of, again, what influenced me to go. Yeah. And I'm like, if that's the case, then why are you being so hard on me? Yeah. So that, when I talked to my mom, that was kind of the switch that flipped. But it's still, for me, it was kind of like, your parent tells you something, you're just kind of like, okay. Like, I kind of blew it off at the time. Yeah. And my sister was going to Kansas. She was playing volleyball there. And so we had become really good friends with the Mannings. Okay. Danny Manning, and my sister played with his daughter. Okay. So I was like, oh, maybe I can, transfer and go to KU. My eyes were way bigger. Like, they had the Morris twins, Thomas Robinson. Like, I was completely outmatched. Yeah. At the time, I was completely outmatched. And coach kind of caught wind of it. So me and him have a sit down conversation, and he's like, I hear you want to leave. And I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, I feel like we don't, we're not seeing eye to eye on things. Wow. And I'll be honest with you, that's probably the best thing that ever happened, because me and him hashed it out for 2 or 3 hours, went back and forth, and I actually figured out he wanted me to approach him and essentially have this conversation with him. Because he knew that if I brought it to him, then okay, Jackie cares enough, and I'm going to be able to kind of easily push him into being the face of the men's basketball team in the university. Yeah. Which is what he always had envisioned. He just wanted me to want that for myself. Wow. And so that's where my sophomore year, he was doing these things intentionally. And so when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, now I understand why because you were trying to, my junior year, we had no seniors. He was preparing me to be the leader of the team my junior year. He was just waiting for me to kind of have that aha moment and be like, oh, I'm going to be the man. I'm going to be the guy that everyone's looking to and lead the team. And so, he was just he was super honest with me, super transparent. And we ended up, the rest is history at that point. Yeah. But we ended up figuring it out. But it was really cool. So I really started to appreciate that level of communication from coaches.
And I think that was, I know it probably wasn't easy to have that conversation and maybe some knots in your stomach, but it was mature for you at the age too to come in and be like, this is honestly what I'm thinking, and not go in there with threatening to leave or anything. This is just what I'm thinking, and him come back and able to have, I'm sure it may have got a little heated, but you guys were still able to talk about things and figure it out, and I'm glad it ended up, working out. But those are the conversations that need to happen, and they happen later on in life, and you have to figure out when we're going through those tough times, do we stick through it? Do we just need to regroup? Right. What needs to happen through it? So Amazing conversation.
Yeah, I was terrified. Like
Yeah.
I was terrified walking because I was like, I'd never ever spoken to a coach or had a conversation of like what playing time looks like, what it looks like with me being a part of the team, me wanting to leave. Like those were all things that were super foreign. So it was like to have that conversation. It changed a lot of things for me.
Because you kind of can skate on thin ice as an athlete. You don't want to be the kid that comes in and complains about playing time, but you also want your coach to know that you care and that you want to be out there. So it's that fine line of balancing it. So I'm glad that you were able to have that in your career. Okay, so we're moving on. We're getting ready for what could potentially be after college. Talk to me about this process. How realistically, give us the real deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. So at this point, college finishes, and I'm like on, cloud nine. Like I'm like NBA scouts are coming to the game, agents are coming to the game. I mean, like I know the season didn't finish the way I wanted it to, but like I'm ready for. At that point, the season's done. I'm like, I'm ready to move to Chicago, start training, figure out the agent stuff, and move forward. So we end up meeting with 3 agents at my old AAU coach's house. Okay. Didn't know what that process looked like. Was really crazy, honestly, because I mean, at that point in time, like you're just like, you don't know what to expect. And people are showing up saying, okay, we think you could go to the Clippers. We think you can go to the Mavericks. And you're still trying to wrap your head around like, this is the NBA. Like this is the, so end up making a decision to actually go with the trainers I was telling you. I went to Chicago my junior or the summer of my sophomore year. That was the same agency I ended up signing with, actually. Okay. And so I signed with Priority Sports, moved to Chicago in April, and start to train. And at that point, a lot of things just start kind of coming my way. Get invited to the NBA Combine, which was like a first for anyone that had ever gone to Illinois State. So like you're going to go compete against the guys that you're going up against in the draft, more or less. And all of that was in Chicago, and it really worked out in a sense of I was already at the arena and stuff that we were already going to be going to have the combine at. Okay. So I was able to have that kind of that familiarity, and it was a good summer, and then started out with the team workouts shortly after.
Okay, so talk to me about what those are like and being surrounded by people you might have looked up to or now maybe I'm on the same page. Do you have a level of I'm doing the thing or no?
Well, I can, so during the NBA Combine, that was probably the first, because up until that point, you get to train along guys that are joining the agency. Okay. So this was Isaiah Cannon, who played at Murray State. He essentially started point guard U. He was the reason why John Morant went to Murray State. And they had those really good teams. There was Mason Plumlee, who went to Duke. So all these guys that I'm watching on TV that I'm now getting to work with on a daily basis and getting to know personally. So that was fun, and being able to, hear other people's college experiences from playing at these big blue chip universities that I was always dreaming about. Yeah. And kind of wrap my head around that. So by the time the combine came, that was kind of normal, but you have to do interviews with all of the teams. Okay. So that was really where my anxiety came in. The basketball part's easy. When you have to actually go and sit down with teams and have conversations, that's when it gets a little bit more real. It's slowly ramping up. Slowly you're okay, I'm working to go work out for NBA teams. Now I'm meeting with the NBA teams. Now I'm actually going to their facilities and working out and being able to see what they think about me. Yeah. So I'll never forget this. I was getting ready to do one of my interviews. Okay. And so Rudy Gobert is walking past me. And mind you, I'm thinking in these interviews, they're dress nice, have a tie on, have a suit on, all these things. And I'm maybe going to get drafted in the second round. Yeah. Rudy Gobert's lottery pick. Rudy Gobert walks in flip-flops, basketball shorts, and a white tee. And I went, oh, so you're getting drafted, so you're getting, you don't care. And I was I'm sitting here sweating through my Men's Warehouse suit. And I'm like, this is insane.
No way.
I'm like, this is insane. I look ridiculous right now. Like, there were some guys there that you knew were just Ben McLemore, these guys.
Yeah.
They're getting drafted. You knew the guys that were getting drafted being cared. You knew the guys that were fringe. And I was one of the guys that was fringe. So I go in,
Flip-flops.
and first interview was with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are actually playing this is the year that they lost to Dallas. It was 2013. And they were interviewing me, and the TV's behind me, and they turn the TV on while I'm in the middle of an interview. And they do things to mess with you. Like, they do things to psychologically mess with you. And so I'm like, are they watching the game? Or are we having a meeting? And so I'm just kind of like, they're kind of have free reign to do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. So those are the type of things that they do to try to throw you off.
Yeah.
You'll hear guys say, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, for example, they'll be like, hey, take this deck of cards, pull out 4 cards, have you memorize the 4 cards, and start the conversation. Oh, okay, give them back to us. Halfway through the conversation, they'll stop and be like, what were the 4 cards that we showed you at the start of the interview? So they'll do like little things like that to mess with you. So you start to get super paranoid as you're walking in. Guys are sitting out in the lobby talking to each other like, what did Houston do? What did Dallas do?
Wow.
What did Cleveland do? So that's that part of it. Right before you're getting ready to actually go to like the team facility. So it's all just like I said, you're learning on the fly.
Yeah.
They put you all in a big conference room. They tell you, hey, this is what you can do. Mm-hmm. This is what you can't do. And these are the things that you should expect. People, agents, financial advisors, women, the whole thing. They lay it all. It's like you start to, at that point, it's like you feel like you're in like this, it honestly felt like the CIA or something. Because it was so much like, I don't even want to say secrecy, but it was like, hey, we're giving you like they were peeling back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you can potentially expect if you guys do make it.
Wow.
Yeah. That part was really eye-opening and wild.
Okay. So we're going through all the nitty-gritty. What is the next steps after potentially getting on a team, or you're just...
So they schedule like your workouts, and so you have like a calendar, and like, hey, you're going to be on the East Coast, you're going to go Boston, you're going to go Memphis, you're going to go, so they kind of have it mapped out for you. You're going to come back, work out, keep you in shape, and this is what we've been working for since April.
Yeah.
So end up going, I think I had 16 or 17 workouts like scheduled. Wow. And the goal is like, hey, you want to go work out for a team, and then tell you, hey, stop all of your workouts. We're going to take you at such and such a number. So, I had pretty good workouts. My best workout was in Detroit. Okay. They were pretty much like, the front office was Joe Dumars, and he pretty much was like, hey, we like you at 34. And if you're still there, we don't think you will be. We'll take you. Yeah. He ends up getting fired 2 weeks before the draft. And so we kind of knew that. We're kind of like, okay, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe they still have that same plan. They took someone very similar to me, but that guy, funny enough, that guy ended up getting kicked off the team in like 2 years or something like that. So, it's like one of those things where you see it and you're like, okay, it wasn't supposed to be for whatever reason. Yeah. But yeah, then you essentially get all these experiences with all these different teams. In the cities, it's almost like to see what it'll be like if you live there or play there, show up, work out, and and at that point, then the draft comes in June. So it's a lot of just mental preparation more than anything, because the teams are just there to try and just mentally mess with you. Like Boston and Houston that year were like the teams where everyone was like, this is what you need to prepare for. Yeah. They're gonna make you practice for 2 hours. You're not gonna stop. You have heart monitors on. So it was a lot of fun, but it was definitely like mentally preparing for those trips.
Good gosh. The card one would get me. I'm like focused, but the card one, I'd be like, you got it. Let me just get out of this real quick.
No, my attention span then, there was no TikTok, Instagram, so my attention span was still pretty good. Now, I don't know if I'd be able to do it or not. I don't know.
There was 4 of them. That's all I know. Take them.
Exactly.
Okay, so the draft is in June. Yeah. How is that time in your life? What's going on?
Crazy. At that point, I think I'm going to the NBA. I'm like, hey, I'm potentially drafted by Detroit, had other really good workouts with Boston and LA. They're kind of saying like anywhere from like 34 on down, but you just never know. Like that people will tell you like, hey, if they redraft that same draft or however many drafts they could redraft it, it would be a different pick every single time. So like, you know that walking into it. So you kind of have some false hope, but I had a draft party. I had the whole thing. People from high school came. At that point, it's really real. And you're like, okay, man, I hope I get drafted, because if I don't, this is going to be really embarrassing. And I did not end up getting drafted. And that was probably another thing that I look back now and I'm like, I feel like it didn't happen for certain reasons. Yeah. Which is perfectly fine. But it was one of those things where you have to look inward at that point and then decide, do I still want to do this? How much do I still really want this? Even though I don't have that, oh, hey, I was the 42nd pick in the NBA draft. So, then at that point, Summer League started. But yeah, that was probably the toughest point where I've now even going through a lot of therapy in my life, looking back on those points and knowing even how I handled it afterwards. I didn't talk to anyone. Wow. I cried with my siblings. My principal from my high school came and gave me a hug. I drove home, crawled under the covers, didn't speak to anybody. Woke up the next day, signed with the Miami Heat for Summer League and for like their training camp, and went from that point.
Wow. I'm almost speechless, and this doesn't happen for me, but that, just so many layers to that story right there, because thank you for being vulnerable enough to talk about that experience, because we see all the excitement on the TV and all that stuff, but like, what happens if that dream doesn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen in our head? And I think I mean, you sharing that, I definitely would have handled it like that. Yeah. So even you doing that is just great. But okay. So we're signing with the Summer League things. How is it looking now? Are we still in our head about this? Maybe is it still a possibility? Is basketball still like, I want to do this? I know I do.
In my head, in a major way. Because it's like, I got to the doorstep. I did LeBron camp. I worked my way up the ladder to be what I thought probably one of the top 10 big men in college at the time. Yeah. So then to get to that point, and then for the NBA to reject you is what it felt like. Because you get right to the doorstep of, you had everything laid out for you. Everybody, you have this. You have your trading cards. You have everything. You're signing autographs. Yeah. And then you just are at the doorstep, and then they slam the door in your face. So then you deal with that rejection part, which is then when you learn a lot more about yourself and how am I going to bounce back from it. I went and played in Miami and actually get benched with the Heat. This was when it was still in Orlando. Okay. And so my agent calls me and says, hey, Dallas has a spot for you, but you have to leave Orlando right now and fly to Dallas to do their 2 weeks before you guys go to Summer League. Because they train for a week before you go to Summer League to get all the plays down and everything, for them to like work with the guys and for the team to get familiar with each other. Yeah. So go there, and I'm like playing well, but they had just drafted a guy, Bernard James, that played at Florida State. He was the guy. He was like in the military, and he had this cool story. They drafted him. He was playing really well. So I'm like, I'm not gonna play over this guy, but I just need to be ready. Yeah. And I was fighting a hamstring injury. Gotcha. And I did not tell anybody. I actually suffered it in Boston during a workout. And I was like, there's no way I can tell anyone about this, because if I do, they're just going to, it's just going to be another check. Like, they're going to find some reason why not to play me, whatever. I'm just going to leave it alone. So, end up going to Vegas. We're there. First game, didn't really play. Second game, didn't really play. Third game, I get a call, and they're like, hey, Bernard was at the seafood buffet downstairs and got food poisoning and flew back to Dallas. Good gosh. They said, so you're going to be starting tonight. I said, wait, starting? So that team was Shane Larkin, who is like one of the best European players now. Right? Yeah. It was Shane, it was Gal Meckel, who's Israeli, and then it was Ricky Lito. So all the guys that they had drafted. And actually, sorry, I apologize. Another sidebar. Shane did not play. Right before we left, Shane had broke his ankle. He had stepped on my foot and broke his ankle. So this is the number 9 pick that they drafted out for the entire year with the ankle, with a broken ankle. So it's only him and there's only 2 other guys. So end up starting and end up playing really, really well. And we ended up losing to Golden State. Actually, was guarding Draymond Green. Draymond had, I always tell people, I'm like, Draymond had 2 points and 5 fouls. And was at the end of the bench, but I said he was still talking trash. He was still doing the whole thing, but I bust his ass. I said, you can go back and watch the tape. But I say all that to say, played really well. Took advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
Dallas was like, hey, we're gonna call you for training camp. Golden State calls and it's like, hey, we really want you to come to training camp. What do you think? And I had an offer to go to Europe and I had an offer to go to Golden State. This is probably what I always would either tell my son or like moving forward now, like the reason why I went through it was to have the experience to then be able to like, you know, help whoever else make the decision moving forward, where I should have went to Golden State. Should have went to training camp. If you know anything about Golden State, they, even though they were going to put me on the D-League team, they still use their D-League guys and still call them up and still develop them and still do all the things. So I was like, no, I'm going to go to Spain and turn down the deal. So ended up going to Spain, was there for 3.5, 4 months, and then the team stopped paying everybody. So then that's when I came back and played for the Energy that year. And then that's where I was fringe being like, I'm maybe going to be done playing basketball for the rest of my life.
Jackie, this story gets crazier and crazier. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so that's the point where I was like, because I had already was like, had the chance to do it. The guy that took the deal to go to Golden State at the time as well, Dwayne Denman, ends up getting called up 2 or 3 weeks after leaving training camp. Goes and is in, he was with the Warriors, and then he went to Sacramento or Atlanta or somewhere. And he was a great player. So he ends up doing that. And I'm like, well, why didn't I go to Golden State? I could have, and it's like you start playing those games with yourself. So then by the time I was back in the D-League, I had some opportunities to get called up, whatever, never worked out. But at that point I was kind of like, I never want to play in the D-League again. Because it was travel, everything was just terrible. And I was like, do I want to go back to Europe? This team wasn't paying me. Now I'm in a lawsuit with them. Now I got to pay X amount to go get the money back.
Right.
And that's where I was at. So I really had a decision to make.
You've had a lot of decisions to make. And I mean, huge life decisions that unless you have somehow been in them before or have somebody that's been in something, like how are you making these? And you're still, I would say, still young. I mean, we're early 20s. That's very young to be making these kind of decisions. You don't know what to do. And I'm backtracking a little bit on your story of stay ready. Stay ready because you just never know. You never know when your time's going to be. And it's unfortunate what happened to the, other players at that time. But like, that was your opportunity. And I'm glad you showed up for it. But like, you can't be in those what was me because you just never know what's going to happen. At that point, I was like, hey, if they let me on the court, it's going to be the hardest 5 minutes I've ever played in my entire life. Exactly.
And that's just that's really what carried me through that point. Because everything else, I was super checked out. I was like, I just thought it was a bunch of BS. Because I honestly thought, I was like, I'm better than this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. But in the grand scheme of things, being the underdog, and I love the underdogs because those are typically the people that, like, you see it all the time, like these 2 or 3 stars that come out of high school that end up turning into these phenomenal players simply because they had the chip on their shoulder. And that was probably my biggest thing. I never let the chip on my shoulder just kept getting bigger and bigger as time went along. So.
Okay, so you have decided to make that decision to play overseas. Talk to us about culturally, you've got to experience a lot. Like, how is it over there and finding the right fits and different basketball culture, different life culture, and, money is still, I mean, you can play and, make a decent living doing it. So what is that lifestyle like?
Crazy. So, I was trying to make the decision if I wanted to go back to Europe or not. And a team came in at this time I'm playing D-League. I'm broke. I'm broke. And I'm just like, I want to make a living from this. I really feel called to do this. I really feel like this is my purpose in life. like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to give it one more shot. I'm going to sign with this team in Israel, and I'm going to at least try and make it work. And if they don't pay me, they don't whatever, I'll understand maybe that this was just like, this has run its course. This isn't for me, because I didn't really understand European basketball at the time either. I didn't understand the teams that were calling. I didn't understand the rules. Like, it's a whole set of rules. It's just completely different from the NBA. So I ended up deciding to go to Israel, and my life was forever changed at that point. I had the best coach I've ever had in Europe.
Wow.
I have friends that I'm still friends with till this day. And living in Israel in itself, you immerse yourself in the culture. You get to experience Shabbat. You get to experience all the holidays. You get to see how much of like just a family. And it just changed. I had these great teammates. And honestly and truly, like, it was really a God thing at the end of the day, because he was doing all of this to build me up, to put me in this position. So it was like these teammates that I've had, these are the best teammates I've ever had from any professional level. Like, these teams that I was first starting out, it was this real family atmosphere.
Wow.
And we ended up having a really, really good season in Israel, ended up making like lifelong friends. And Israel in itself is like, it was like 63 the entire year. Like, it rains maybe for like a month in January. So I didn't want to leave afterwards. I didn't want to, I'm like, honestly, I'll live here. But yeah, that was really my introduction to Europe. And like I said, they, getting paid to play the game that you love. It just kind of, I got re-inspired, I guess, being over there. So,
what kind of advice would you give someone who's maybe wanting to take that step to play overseas? Any steps that you took, or do's or don'ts?
It's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of NBA players that have gone over there in the last like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Simply from the fact of like, there's a lot that's asked of you, and you get micromanaged like the nth degree. You get to be told when you can leave the hotel, when you can't leave the hotel, when you need to be somewhere, when you need to show up, and they're paying you to do a job. So you're showing up there and you have to do what they're asking you to do. There's no question about that. But you really have to mentally, it's 100% a mental battle, because you're away from your family. Yeah. You're away from any American restaurants. At the time there wasn't Uber Eats. There wasn't these like, luxuries that we have now. Yeah. But like it was very much like the Wild Wild West. Like, you really have to come prepared, like, to just do your job, do it well. And the European season starts before the NBA and ends after it. Okay. So NBA starts in October. If you're on a bad team, you end in April, and you're just done for the rest of the year. 6 months. Europe is 9 to 10 months. Even if you're on a bad team. Yeah. If you're on a good team, you'll play that entire 10 months until the very, very end. Get 2 months off in the summer and be right back to it in August.
2 months off, you're still working, grinding.
Still working, and you still got to take your 2 weeks and then get back in the gym to then prepare for next season.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
A lifestyle for sure. Yes. Not just a hobby at that point. Yes. So what is it like playing for that Bosnian championship in 2021?
Crazy. I mean, that was my only hardware that I had won in Europe, because playing over 11 years, you play for every team 1 year. Yeah. Every year you're trying to come in and win a championship, and you're trying to you're trying to get to the next level. Yeah. So you're trying to get to Barcelona. You're trying to get to Madrid. So it's all about, at that point, how many points do you average? How many rebounds do you average? How many assists do you average? And then you're trying to balance that with being a team player, right, and trying to all accomplish that goal of winning a championship. So winning the Bosnian Cup in 2021 was, kind of that, it's kind of like that moment where you're kind of like, okay, I've won a championship. It's not the one that I've wanted to win, but from a team standpoint that year, that was my best year in Europe from a team standpoint and from an individual standpoint. So it was nice to kind of see it all kind of pay off in a sense. Like, you have something tangible. Yeah. To be like, okay, cool. Like, we really worked towards something. We're able to accomplish this as a team.
What are the fans like in that kind of atmosphere?
Man. I got so many. How much time you got? I got a lot of crazy stories. I've seen some crazy things. I've seen fans run on the floor.
Oh gosh!
I've seen fans fight players. I could talk about Bosnia. So that's the ABA League. So this is what essentially was Yugoslavia.
Okay.
When the war happened, then it was Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia, Montenegro, and Bosnia. Mm-hmm. I think I might be missing one, but those fans are very passionate and very much love their teams. So, I have a lot of Serbian friends, I have a lot of Croatian friends, and they feel like they're mortal enemies, like the cultures are, because they've had so much war and strife between each other.
Okay.
So when you go into these venues, and it's if you Google Red Star on YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about. But Nikola Jokic has talked about this, where it's like, I've played in Serbia. Like, playing in the NBA is nothing.
Yeah.
So a lot of the fan interactions are very interesting, because if you're winning, everything's good.
Yeah.
If you're losing, it's a different story. Or if you are the better team and you go into another team's arena, it's very hostile.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's wild over there. It really is. They light flares inside. There's people smoking inside. For a while,
gosh.
They throw quarters, rocks. They'll light quarters with the lighter and throw them at you. I mean, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
And you're still like, yeah, another season, let's do it.
Yeah, another season, let's do it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
You start at a certain point, it becomes part of it. You know? You're just kind of like, man, what are we going to experience today?
What are they going to throw?
Yeah. What are they going to throw? Some teams will have nets up in the court so people can't throw stuff. But I mean, yeah, if you Google from 2013, now it's kind of cooled out a little bit. But I mean, it's a big deal over there to them, to those fans. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so being done with basketball is still pretty recent in your life. Talk to me about making this decision of like, hey, I'm ready to step away, or maybe I'm not. What are these conversations like with family and yourself?
Yeah. The only conversation was like, how long do I want to play? Yeah. And, do I want to play until I can't move anymore? Or do I want to retire and then move into something else? And, as crazy as my life has been with basketball and all the amazing things I've got to experience, I kind of always felt like my life was like, I was supposed to be doing something outside of basketball. Like, basketball wasn't going to be my end game. Okay. And I always felt like that for some weird reason. And maybe if I went to the NBA, maybe it doesn't work out like that. So trying to make the decision, I was like, I want to be done playing like 32. I want to be a dad. I want to, just experience life, because it's like, I only get 2 months out of the year to really do that, be around my family. Yeah. And, in all honesty, going back to your question about like the advice that I have for guys is, I was single and I was by myself for the last 9 years before I met my wife. So that time you get really comfortable being alone and by yourself. So when I would come back in the 2 months over the summer, even with my family, I'd get irritated. Like it would take me some time to almost decompress and be like, hey, like I just kind of need a second, because I'm not used to being in the same house, or, just being able to, that access more or less. Yeah. And so that kind of worked to my detriment, like moving forward, because I wasn't able to really like connect and build relationships like I normally would in my daily life, because I wasn't used to it. I was used to being it just about me, just about what I need to eat, what I need to take care of my body, when I need to be at the gym. And that was really it. So that was kind of the adjustment that I had to make. So outside of that, I was like, I don't want to be still experiencing that at 34, 35. Like, I want to be able to grow and, have different life experiences. Right. So made the decision last year, where I was like halfway through the year, had been like working on some things outside of basketball, and was like, I think this is going to be kind of like the way to move forward. And that was, getting into business acquisitions. I had been doing stuff prior, like I had worked and got my life insurance license, to try and like work with, really work with athletes to try and like understand like life insurance from a standpoint of like how to protect yourself. And I had another mentor come into my life and like teach me all about that stuff. So it was just kind of just really a culmination of things that really like amounted to me being like, okay, I think this is a good stopping point. I've only had one major injury, so that held me out like a year. So
Now, you spoke a little bit about therapy. If it's okay if we dive into it.
Yeah, of course.
Are you having these conversations with that trusted someone of like, I think I'm ready to step away from this career? Or again, it was just like, this is what I know I want to do. I've got some interest outside of it, like kind of internalizing it.
That was really the problem why I went to therapy, because I wasn't talking to anyone. I was just internalizing all of it.
Yeah.
It was really one of those things where I was like, people are going to think that I'm nuts when I walk away from basketball and all these things, because you see the glitz and the glam and you see all of it. You don't see all the back end.
Yeah.
And so that was really my thing where I was like, I just have other interests. I want to do other things with my life. Like a lot of guys I had met playing overseas, their plan A, B, C, D was be a professional basketball player. If they would have broke their leg the next day, they did not have a plan B.
Right.
And that was always my issue, where I was like, if basketball doesn't work out, I got a lot of other things I want to go and do with my life. So those are the conversations you start to have. I spoke with my wife, Lacey, and would like have conversations with her. But even then, we're still like, starting to live together, starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
I had ended up moving to Nashville, and so I bought a house there and all the things. So even in the midst of all of that, and trying to explain to her like my life, and she's kind of getting like an inside look now that we're together. There's a lot of similarities from like her life and my life that she could kind of give me some perspective on that I had never heard before. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was really one of those things where I just was like, I need to move forward with my life in a healthy way that is going to allow me to chase my dreams outside of basketball.
I really like that. And it's okay to lean on those people in whatever aspect it is and how much you share. But I think it's important to have those conversations, even if you feel like you're ready to move on, because you never know. And I'm glad that you had a good support system to talk through that stuff with. So when you're stepping away, even now, do you ever have an I miss this or an adrenaline rush of like, this is the time I'm normally heading overseas again or anything like that? Or it's still like, it was a good time in my life?
It's a mix sometimes. So like I probably... in the past like 6 months, probably like 6 months, like I'll watch some games here and there, and I'll be like, I'll kill that guy. I would
wear my shoes.
Yeah, wear my shoes. I'll crush him. But no, it's just more like you like have those thoughts. But I've been very happy with like retirement. I've touched more golf clubs than basketballs probably in the past like 6 or 7 months, which has been great. But originally I would say, when I first was getting ready to step away, I was like, this is awesome. I was telling people I would get a new lease on life, more or less. Like I get to actually make my own schedule and be who I want to be, and I'm not under the thumb of a coach or an organization that's telling me, hey, be here, do this, do that. Do I miss the game? Yes, in ways. I think probably the biggest thing, I've talked about this in therapy, is the competition part. You have to start to figure out, like, I'm a win by any means type of guy when I was playing. And so I would, you use mental things, use physical things to try and outsmart the other team of the players.
Right.
So then to have to just stop that cold turkey and have
where does it go?
Where does it go? So you have to handle those in healthy ways, because in daily life you can't walk around and try to manipulate people and try to bully people. That's just not how it works.
You're racing in the grocery store, come on.
Exactly. And me and my wife are very competitive, so it might be racing up the steps or trying to win a board game. But at the end of the day, retirement's been good, and it was the right necessary steps, and those just get confirmed by day as you're, moving forward. So,
did you have any? I don't know if guilt is the right word, but any of those feelings of just having to miss out on so much life? And I say have to. I know you made a choice to continue, but just big moments, whether it was in families' lives or friends' lives, where you're like, I signed up to do this, and now sitting back in it, you're like, I did miss out on a lot. Did you ever have those, or it was for the right reason?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would 100%, like when I was overseas, like seeing sisters' birthdays, brothers' birthdays, my son's birthdays, like just like stuff like that. Those things will kind of eat at you a little bit, but you understand the reasons of why you're doing it. And my mom was really good at affirming me, like early on in my career, of like, this is a short blip in your life. This is going to be 10, 11, however many years you're blessed to play this game. And then you're going to be done with it. And you're going to be however old, and you're going to be able to move on to the rest of your life. Yeah. So that was a great way to frame it. And I always appreciated her saying it. It did not make it any easier. Right. Because you're seeing all of your friends that aren't playing in college, and you're like, oh, they're going to this event. Or they're going to this event. Or, I'm missing out on these things. But then, now I think when I reflect back on it, sometimes I'm like, I was definitely wishing time away, where I was like playing in Europe. Yeah. That was an experience in itself, know? So, you always go back and forth, but I definitely miss, just being able to travel around Europe is probably was the biggest thing, being able to be in those cities and walk around. It was a great experience.
How fun. How fun. Okay, and you have a new recent member to your growing family, a beautiful little boy. Congratulations on that. How is life and fatherhood of two now been going? Crazy, or just like chilling?
I don't know what I did to have such a great baby, but he lets us know when he needs to poop, when he needs to eat, and when he needs to go to sleep. That's really about it. But, we have my wife, and, she's been awesome. And just, taking care of, both of our kids and allowing me to, just see what retirement really look like, and being able to do that. Like it's just been a whole team effort. Yeah. So it's been really good. Fatherhood's been great. I've actually get to be a real dad. You know, I actually get to like be in the day-to-day, experience everything, and that's what I've wanted for my life. So I knew leaving basketball I was going to get to enter in on this side of it, and I've been excited to do so. And I've just been always this awesome. It's just like I enjoy daddy duty. I really do enjoy it.
Do you think sports are in your kids' future, or it's kind of like how you grew up, whatever comes?
Yeah, I feel like I would love for them to play sports. I would love for them to, I got to experience a lot of, they say football in Europe, but soccer. I would love for my kids to play that and experience it, for me to be able to experience it. Yeah. Because it's such a cool environment. But it's whatever they want to do, honest and truly. If they come to me and say, hey, I want to do it, that's the time that we'll start doing it for real. Yeah. I just know myself, and I know what it took for me to get to a certain point. So I would obviously want them to be better than me. So what the plan that they would have to embark on, they would really have to like be bought in on it. Because at that point, I'm going to say, hey, I'm not going to take it easy on you. And this is what I'm going to push you farther than you've probably ever been pushed in your entire life. Yeah. So we'll wait for them to make that decision. My 6-year-old now has told me he wants to play football, which I'm like, not so sold on yet, but we'll see. We've got time. But they'll figure it out.
Do you have ways now that you're still planning on staying close to the game or staying active now in your life?
This summer I got to meet with Coach Pete at Illinois State. Yeah. And I just had called him and I said, hey, I know you're new here. I'm potentially moving back to town. I would love just to volunteer at the camp. And through that, really, I've been able to just get involved back with the university and with the program. I've been able to speak with other college coaches. Like, they'll call me about guys from Europe. So, it's really just been from that, like, for the love of the game and just being able, like, to either give advice or consult from a, like, just like being a third party and kind of giving my own experiences and then kind of like helping, those teams. So it's been fun. I've been able to, hopefully I'll be more involved in the future. But yeah, just kind of dibble and dabble here and there.
Yeah. Still let them know, but like from a
yeah,
distance.
Exactly. I'm just kind of like, hey, if you guys, if you want to talk basketball, like I love to talk basketball.
Yeah.
But now I speak from more like the business standpoint because sports is from high school on up now it's all business. At the end of the day, it's crazy. It's changed so much.
100%. We're going to wrap up here, get you out of here, but I like to ask my guests one final question. If you could give advice to any former athletes right now who may be struggling or just advice you needed at the time, what would you say?
I would say just trust who you are, trust the inner voice. I think you, most of the time, know what you should do. It's just hard to kind of like, you get in that place of almost like freezing of like, hey, do I do it? Do I not do it? There's a lot of really cool things if you choose to jump off the cliff, but you have to make that decision,
right?
Yes or no. So I always think just trust yourself, have people around you that you trust, and, just build off of that. And then the number one thing is just pray and just be locked in with that. I think talking to God and being able to, ebb and flow with the relationship with Him that I've experienced overseas was a very pivotal point in my life. So I think those are like the three biggest things. Just stay locked into who you are, be true to yourself. I got, sometimes like, you get caught up in the identity of being a basketball player and lose the real identity of yourself. Yeah. And then that's when problems start to come into play. So I would say just those things, just be true to yourself.
Great advice. Thank you. Thank you
Yo, thank
so
you for
much
having me.
for coming on. It's a long time coming.
Yeah,
So.
definitely.
If you guys enjoy episodes like this, make sure that you subscribe and turn on those notifications, and we will be back next week.